Test.
Well, if somebody talks.
Laura's on vacation. She left for her.
We're still trying to connect to the street, but it's recorded. So
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to connect to the street, but it's recorded. So we can always
I call back later. That's good. I call to order the Board of Trustees regular meeting for August 1st, 2023, and the time is now 6 p.m. Trustee Johnson, would you like to give the invocation?
Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for our citizens and our freedoms that we enjoy in our township here. Pray that you be with those who are not doing well tonight, that they would be able to come to our meetings in the future. Pray for those who serve our country, who protect us, who put their lives on the line for us every day. And I pray that you be with those families as they miss them as they're serving. Amen.
Amen. Please join me with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Ms. Hanson. Ms. McKee?
Here.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
And Ms. Arian is out.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. Once again, all requested agenda items were ignored by Ms. McKee and Ms. Hanson. This is just more exclusion of an equal trustee. I had asked that the Lakeland Hills road flooding issue be addressed and discussed because, again, as a trustee, they're trying to exclude me from this, and I don't think that's proper. Also, I believe we need to discuss the continued illegal overwriting of records and the improper refusal to release public records. This has been an ongoing problem, and records requests are continually being denied when that shouldn't be the case. Why aren't we being transparent? Also, I asked about exclusionary zones and to be put on the agenda to have a discussion. Again, that's ignored, and I'm afraid going into the black hole once again. And then I also asked for an executive session regarding employment concerns. That was ignored. So again, we have continued just blocking of any attempts to move this township forward, address issues properly, and have public discussions, not improper discussions outside public meetings, which are against the law. That's all.
Roll call, Ms. Hanson?
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes. I move to adopt the minutes for July 18th, 2023, meeting as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Again, these minutes do not reflect the actual actions and discussion of the board. For example, my discussion on the July 18th, you could pretty much equate what I just requested on the agenda before. It says Trustee Evans discussed when he received the agenda and items for the agenda. That is it. It doesn't include any specifics of action items and concerns I have. And that's a problem because when anybody goes back to the minutes, they don't think anything's been brought up, addressed, or anything. Even when we have new hires like an administrator, they cannot rely on the minutes to go back and say, what were the concerns? We have those concerns with Lakeland Hills. It's been over a year, and if Ms. Hanson went back, you wouldn't have seen much of that at all. So it's a real concern that these minutes are being whitewashed, and unless people have watched the actual video, they have no clue about what's actually done in this meeting.
Roll call, Ms. Hanson?
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes. Okay, I'll move over into public comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes per person. Please come up to the podium, state your first, last name for the record and the address.
Hello, I'm Ron Sabatino. I'm the owner of Cumberland Trail Bar and Grill. I invite everybody to come down, have a sandwich and beer, fireworks.
Is this mic on?
Is the mic on there, Ron?
I know you tested.
Here.
I was.
Hello?
No.
Let us fix that. I know, I don't know what to do. I'm recording, so we'll just have to put it up after.
Hello?
There we go. Now we go.
Anyway, I observed on the agenda that there's a discussion later tonight about the NCA, which, let me say that I'm the statutory developer that formed the NCA for the purpose of generating revenue from the industrial buildings for the township and the TID. Further, I'm a board member from the beginning of when the board was created. And at our most recent meeting, there was a discussion about, although I did not attend that meeting, I talked to many of the folks that did attend, there was a discussion about the excess in lawyer bills, most of which were for the NCA before the NCA was formed, from the lawyer that was appointed initially as the secretary. Most of the legal work is finished in the formation of the NCA. And at the previous meeting, there was a discussion of replacement of the secretary. And it was, the discussion was to consider township manager in order to reduce the expense of a lawyer. The township manager is also a lawyer. There was no formal vote taken that night, but it was kind of, I don't say agreed, because it's not agreed until we vote, to first come to the township and see if this board chose to allow the manager to be considered to be the secretary for the NCA for the purpose of reducing costs for the township and the NCA. I think that's a good idea. Most of the folks at that meeting have told me, not had a chance to talk to all of them, have told me that they think it's a good idea, and so I just came to speak to that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sabatino.
Ryan Davis, 8807 Watkins Road. To piggyback on Mr. Sabatino's conversation, I am the president of the New Community Authority. That was the last meeting that Mr. Sabatino didn't attend. That was the first meeting that we'd had for the year. We did elect officers. There was discussion about possibly considering Ms. Hanson for the opportunity. At that time, you said you had a lot on your plate. So we moved forward to maintain and move our legal representation, which has been attending every meeting that we've had since I've been a member, since they actually started having meetings, Skip Waller, to continue being our secretary, to at such time we need to change. I guess maybe my question, I'd like to see if the board would allow me to, when this discussion comes back up, I would like to be able to come up and maybe discuss and have conversation, because I know it's the public comment section, you guys are going to discuss that agenda item. And in past few meetings, you've had people come up speaking on agenda items. I'd like to come up and talk about that to add some value if the conversation is needed.
I'd support that.
So that I think it's important that everyone knows that it's finally up and running. We have made assessments. There will be money coming into the community to be used for the purpose of the NCA, to actually benefit the community. We have a date of September 15th when everyone is supposed to have the money to us. We are going to schedule a meeting after that date to first reevaluate, okay, who did pay us, and then what we do next. So that's our next scheduled meeting. Any changes that we have as far as a board would happen at that meeting. So that was our plan leaving the meeting. And I spoke to Mr. Waller today to just make sure I concurred, and that was what we discussed, was talking about it after that date has passed. So just want to share a little background on that, with that being the question in the community on the Facebook page about what this even was. The NCA hasn't been touted or explained very clearly to everyone. It's going to benefit the community. More details to come. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you.
I have a question. How much, you have to come up to the panel, please, ma'am.
Alicia Zacher, Cumberland Trails. I was here for one meeting when I believe that was going on. Who is Mr. Waller? Who is that? Did he just mention?
Kip Waller is the attorney that represents the NCA.
Oh, okay. So he was, okay. I saw him sitting here. Are we paying him?
Yes.
$590 more.
Wow. Okay. Well, we have more money than brains. I'd like to understand why we have an attorney. Why can't they do it? I mean, is that possible? I don't understand why we have to pay somebody else when we already have an attorney on retainer or holds a position. But I really came up here today because I'd like to know why, and our fiscal officer isn't here, so I can't give an answer, why it's taken 3 months to pay the police. From last week's meeting when I was here, there were some bills for our law enforcement officers' equipment and repairs, and they weren't paid. And I'm not clear on why they weren't paid. If it's 3 months old, I mean, they protect us while we're here. I think we should support them by paying the bills that they require to utilize the tools for our safety. The other thing is I would like to know why you're using your own personal vehicle for these meetings instead of township equipment, and why we're paying for your mileage. You submitted mileage. You were paid for last.
So does Ms. McKee for
I'm just asking to
any meetings outside of Etna Township.
So you presented or provided this mileage log sheet, and there's no information on it at all. What vehicle you used, what the starting mileage was, what the ending mileage was. You just put down here 48 miles, 24 miles, 32 miles, and it's 45 days old. I mean, are you using a personal vehicle instead of a township vehicle?
You don't use township vehicles.
Why not?
You do not.
Why not?
Ms. McKee does the same.
I'm
It's
not, I'm
standard
just asking you,
practice.
sir, I have your mileage here.
It's standard practice for boards for meetings outside the township.
Why was
It's
your
all
bill
works.
paid and the law enforcement officer's bill's not paid? You got your mileage reimbursement last pay. That was not paid. Everybody else's, it's apparently Nita Hansen can't get her legal, whatever it is, paid. Law enforcement can't get their bills paid, but you're gonna get mileage.
Those were approved and paid.
Yes, but yours wasn't 45 days old, sir. How come she's only paying your bills? She's not paying the rest of the township bills?
She's not, facts
Well, we
matter.
don't know, I've got it. You did not provide us where you started, where you ended, the mileage, what vehicle you're using. I think this board needs to recognize that in an effort to maintain transparency, that you document to and from, maybe a SOP, something that shows where you're going and what you're doing. I'm not aware of anybody else putting in any mileage. Maybe they are.
Ms. McKee has, numerous times.
Okay, but I'm not talking about Ms. McKee, I only have yours, sir,
I
because
believe
you're
that's
the only
your
one who
friend.
asked for $150 from the township.
I believe Ms. McKee has more than one.
Yeah, I'm talking to you because I have your mileage info that you provided, which by the way is not fully recorded. You've got nothing here. What vehicle you used, where you started at, where you ended at, what your mileage is. Most truck drivers and people that document their mileage keep a record of that. You got to provide that.
This document.
What vehicle did you use?
The one out there that says Etna.
Okay. Well, we don't know what the mileage starting was. In good faith, I think you should get paid if you're using your vehicle. I really do. I think you should have to provide it.
We're way over three.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. I have no problem providing.
I'll take it.
It's okay.
It's recording, but, yeah, it's recording, but I don't know what's happening with the screen.
Somebody asked.
Thank you, Ryan.
Teresa Undershot, 484 Trail West. One little thing on the attorney registration as a nurse. In all the years I've worked as a nurse, my registration has never been paid. Any special education has never been paid. Fees for that have never been paid by my employer. So I do agree that some people might have a concern about that, but that would be with whatever her contract was with the township. My big thing is the exclusionary zones. After several months of trying to get it on the agenda, it was finally put on the agenda. Presentation was made. They wanted further information. Mr. Arnold came in, gave further information. Discussion was held by the, people, whether they were for it or against it. Yes, it was spearheaded by one person, but most good ideas are. The only one I've only heard actually one person that did not want the exclusionary zones explicitly. But it's been dropped. Why? It's gone and had a dark hole. We need to bring it back up, vote on it, send it to the commissioners, and let them address it. I'm concerned that another township, another county might want to intrude on Etna Township for a large size solar farm. Thank you.
Is there any other public comments tonight?
Gary Burkholder, 254 Trail East. Two items here. One's canal. Yesterday, it's been a year, August 1st. It's been 1 year since the violations were filed by the Licking County Planning Commission against the Scanal project. We brought this up almost every meeting, and we continue to get stonewalled by the township as to, one, what's going on relative to enforcement, and what are we doing regarding the zoning violations there. We're not protecting the residents of Etna Township. A whole year's gone by, and we brought this issue up numerous times to the county commissioners as well. I'm glad they mentioned exclusionary zones. I guess I want to correct a few things. There's been statements being made, statements made to Soil and Water, and also at this meeting that there was only one person interested. That's not true. It goes clear back to when Hartford went to the county commissioners. There were at least 15, 20 people there that talked about the negative impacts of solar and their position on that. A year ago, I believe it was August 3rd, tomorrow, another year ago, that exclusionary zones were brought up. I do want to congratulate and thank the Etna Township Zoning Commission, which now has voted to make a text amendment that will relate to exclusionary, or I should say zoning regulations for solar under 50 megawatts, but that still leaves the township open to anything over 50 megawatts. I guess my question to you, Mr. Johnson, you publicly stated that you support industrial zoning, which could take up hundreds and thousands of acres in the township. I guess I'd like to know why you feel that way. Also presented at the zoning commission was this nice Citizens for Fairfield, and it talks about solar. Solar is on our border to the south. So the things that residents are saying about the possibility of negative impacts on the community on Etna Township are true. At the last meeting, I requested that the exclusionary zone resolution be on the agenda so that it could be pushed back to the county commissioners and we could get the ball rolling to protect our township. And now I find out even the county commissioners have changed their tune and now are more favorable to consider a resolution coming from the township. So I repeat my request. Let's pass this resolution, get it onto the county commissioners, there'll be public hearings, and let's get the process moving so that we can protect Etna Township. Thank you.
Judy Kaffmeyer, 29 Roma Court. The July 18th trustee meeting was certainly one for the record books. I was heartened by the presentation of Dale Arnold from the Ohio Farm Bureau sounding the alarm for Etna Township and the effects that community solar could have on the area. It was quite an education, and to couple that information with my own research about industrial solar, and we citizens should take notice and demand that our representatives act in the best interests of our citizens, first with an exclusionary zone resolution and strengthened zoning restrictions. Last Monday evening, I attended the special zoning meeting, and the 5 representatives devoted this time to discuss the impact on the township and the zoning required to safeguard the community. It was a breath of fresh air to hear their discussion. It was clear they had done their homework and were aware and respectful of the duty assigned to them. The zoning representatives pledged to clean up any vague language, as Mr. Arnold suggested, and meet again to hash out the specifics before presenting it to the LCPC and the trustees. And by the way, 3 of the 5 representatives were present at the trustee meeting in June and heard Mr. Arnold speak. That says a great deal about these people who are working for the betterment of Etna Township. And I must also add that Mr. Johnson, who is our zoning supervisor, was not in attendance. Next up was Trent Stepp, who gave an exhaustive report about Southwest Licking Water and Sewer. I do not recall the last time Mr. Stepp gave a report in this assembly. It seems that all the projects that Southwest Licking have in the pipeline, more frequent reports might be beneficial. Then Mr. Stepp requested that his appointment be renewed 4 months in advance. That seemed like a highly improper request, and Mr. Evans asked that the discussion be moved to executive session. I was shocked that Mr. Evans' motion was denied and the agenda immediately amended to approve Mr. Stepp's premature reappointment. Absolutely amazing. And finally, Ms. Hansen's law license renewal fee of $400 is being paid by Etna Township when she receives a salary of $130,000. The justification being that the township pays her membership fees and dues to local and county organizations. Not the same. If Ms. Hansen quits this position tomorrow, the membership fees might be transferred to another administrator until its expiration. However, the license goes with her. Totally different. Seems like you've opened a can of worms.
Ashley Payne, 75 Trailies. I'm not sure why there's such an uproar over her getting licensed. That's her certified or whatever the heck she needed to do her job more efficiently. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. My job would reimburse me for anything that I would need to do work-wise. I think that is so silly to poke that bear. Who cares? I mean, that's what we're upset about. With everything else going on here, that's what we're upset about. Let it go, guys. That's way less important than half of the other things going on in this township. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Nope, don't care. Don't want to hear about it.
Is there any other public comments tonight? Okay, we'll just move on over to Ms. Hanson, our administrator. I'll turn the meeting over to her.
Thank you, Ms. McKee. So I want to start with talking about some community events that are going to be coming up. The Pelotonia, which I think everybody knows is an organization of events centered around a 2-day bike ride in the Columbus and surrounding area to raise funds for cancer research at the Ohio State University Comprehensive Cancer Center, or the James. The ride itself will be partly in our area this Saturday, August the 5th. From Pickerington, the ride will come across Wagram to Palmer, to Tollgate, to Etna Parkway, to Refugee, to Columbia, and then beyond. So there should be traffic alerts as the riders pass through, but just so everyone has an idea that there's going to be, I'm not even, I'm sorry. I don't.
Sorry.
Sorry, is that better? Yes, thanks. So just to be aware that the Pelotonia riders are going to be in our area on Saturday. This weekend is also Ohio's tax-free weekend. From Friday, August 4th through Sunday, August 6th. During those 3 days, shoppers can buy items without sales or use tax, being clothing items that are $75 or less, school supplies that are $20 or less, and school instruction materials that are $20 or less. And that's not a cumulative total, that can be per item. Reminder about the special election next Tuesday, August the 8th, for voters to decide Issue 1. State Issue 1 seeks to change the method by which to amend the Ohio Constitution by raising the voter threshold from 50% to 60% and increase the number of counties' ballot signatures for citizen initiatives from 44 to all 88 counties. The Reynoldsburg Tomato Festival is August 10th through 12th. The Tomato Festival celebrates Reynoldsburg history as the birthplace of the tomato and has been a tradition in Reynoldsburg for over 55 years. It includes food, live entertainment, and more. For additional information, visit the Tomato Festival website at tomatofest.com and the Reynoldsburg Tomato Festival Facebook page. The Pataskala Street Fair is August 16 to 19. The Pataskala Street Fair is organized and run as a fundraiser for the West Licking Firefighters Association. The fair includes entertainment, a parade, food, raffle, and more. During the event, there'll be closures of area roads in order to route traffic around the fair. For more information, visit the Street Fair website, pataskalasstreetfair.org. Last week, we were notified that the Licking County Health Department identified catch in its trap on Royalty Drive as positive for West Nile virus. The area was sprayed the same evening. The Health Department recommends eliminating standing water on your property to reduce mosquito breeding sites, apply EPA-approved insect repellent, wear pants and sleeves when appropriate, and avoid other outdoor activity after dark when mosquitoes are most active. As an update on Skinnell, which I know Mr. Burkholder was hoping for, Skinnell Properties continue to work with the county commissioners to comply with the requirements for stormwater drainage and other remediation issues that have been longstanding and ongoing. They make essentially monthly reports to the commissioners about their progress. Some questions were raised about the property tax abatement. The commissioners have confirmed that Skinnell is in compliance with requirements for the Licking County Tax Incentive Review Commission. You might have heard that referred to as the TIRC. Should Skanel wish to transfer the abatement to any new owner or seek approval for any new project, they must first have completed everything on the remediation punch list. The township issued a violation to Skanel because it had not been properly mowing some of its ground. That violation was remediated. In terms of zoning, 21 zoning permits were issued during June for a total of $3,720. 20 zoning permits were issued in July for a total of $1,375. There have been 43 violation letters mailed to date, all of which have been remediated except for 6 which remain open, each of which were mailed last week. The Zoning Commission met on June 13, July 11, and July 24. The Commission is continuing its work on updating Articles 10 and 2 of our zoning code. Specific discussions have been had about solar zoning, especially for requests for solar that are non-site sustaining. The next Zoning Commission meeting is scheduled for August the 8th. The Board of Zoning Appeals heard 2 variance requests on July 25th. The first request was for a parking space variance for Old School Dental to reduce the minimum required spaces from 59 to 37. At full capacity, the business would only need 35 spaces. The variance was granted. The second request was for an accessory structure variance. The request was to allow an increase from the maximum square footage of 1,000 square feet to 3,920 square feet. That variance was denied. Sheetz is tentatively scheduled to open for business toward the end of the month. There were some neighbor concerns. Some had been expressed even during the public comments. They've all been resolved. The backside of the fence on the north of the property was matted and seeded, and the lane widening for turn lanes has been completed. And all that work was within ODOT's right-of-way along State Route 310. We received today a copy of a third violation to Sheetz from Licking County, which resulted from an inspection in June, but all of the issues that were addressed in that violation have already been corrected. Oh, by the way, construction has begun on the new elementary school on Watkins Road, and as a result, on the north side, the far north side, the entrance on the far north side of the campus is restricted to construction traffic only. All vehicles should enter the Watkins Road campus at the traffic light. Our road crew has been busy over the last several weeks, sealing cracks in the roads and mowing and mowing and mowing. I'm especially grateful for their response to emergency situations. On July 24th, when we had a hard storm with rain and hail, Mr. Copley received a call about 2 trees that were down in high water. He called out his team who cleared the roadway while the rest of us were in the safety of our homes. Thank you for all that you do with your team.
Thanks, Copley.
The Joint Economic Development Districts, or JED, you might have heard that phrase, JED, have made their second quarter payments. JED 1 paid the township $32,988.19. JED 2 paid $211,675.79. JED 3 paid $9,337.42. JED 4 paid $9,028.19. JED 7 paid the township $21,346.83, for a total of $284,376.42 to the township in the second quarter. In total, in the second quarter, the JEDs contributed $242,395.77 to the Southwest Licking School District. The reconstituted board of the West Licking Development Group will meet on August 16th at 3 p.m. here at Town Hall. One issue that has been brought up a number of times and that I would like to address is that I do not establish the agenda for any of these meetings. I do not instruct the board what business they are to conduct. My job, my role is to implement the work that the board determines to do. So just as a point of clarification. If anyone has any issues or concerns throughout the township, please reach out to me. I can tell you my email or my phone, or I'm happy to give you my business card. But I'm always here and always available if you need anything. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Hanson, I did have a question. I've repeatedly asked for a copy of that report, and you've refused. I believe that should be provided to me and this board prior to the meetings, and also released to the public in a packet to provide them with information. Is there a reason that you feel you need to withhold that report from the trustees so that we can't properly prepare it?
So I don't have a written report, Mr. Evans. As you know, we've discussed it many times. I have notes for an oral presentation that I've been asked to make. I've been asked by the board to make an oral presentation at least one meeting a month. My notes are my notes, and they are not a report. And so I know you like to use the word refuse. I, however, decline. My notes change as I go along, and so they're not necessarily even what I'm going to discuss. But I do not have a written report. I've never been, in fact, I've been told I need no written report. It's just to make an oral report for the purpose of the community, and that's what I do.
Well, it's a multi-page written typed report, and I believe to be transparent and working with the board, that should be done. And I've requested as trustee and also under public records, but just to your comment about the board determines what you do and you don't have anything on the agenda, you do put this stuff on the agenda. You dealt with the West Licking Development Group appointments in your report last time. So you do that, and that was on the agenda. I'm saying you're not working with the board or me as a trustee in anything I ask. So I think that needs to change.
Mr. Evans, I'm gonna say this, and the residents sitting in this room and whoever else is watching live, the way you have treated Ms. Hanson, I mean, emails constantly accusing her, but degrading her, calling her a liar, telling her she's incompetent. Who would want to work with you? I mean, this is a constant thing with you every day, 2 or 3 emails a day. And it's really, you intimidate, you bully. She's doing her job.
No, she is not.
Not maybe the way you want her to do it, but she's doing her job. She's doing she's doing really well for the town. Yes, she is.
I will echo Ms. McKee's comments.
Why wouldn't any honest
Same
person
thing, Mr. Evans.
release what they're going to say to the board?
It's her nose.
Why would anybody write the emails that you write, Mr. Evans, in your time? I have no idea why anybody would do that.
Maybe it's you.
I'm going to move over to new business. I move to allow Nita Hanson to serve as a secretary for the new community authority, which is the NCA board. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
May I ask a
Yes,
question?
yes,
I just
you
want to
sure
clarify your motion.
Right,
so
that's
I'm
why
trying
we want to
keep
go
track
into
of
the
these.
discussion, so you can.
Really, it's just approval of the board for me to serve should the new community authority decide that I should do that, right? I mean,
Correct.
this board cannot tell the new more.
That's exactly
okay.
right.
I just want to have that clarification.
Yes,
Because
yes.
a concern that I had at the meeting in May was I was new to this position.
Right.
I was still learning exactly what all was going to be entailed with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to accept the thought that maybe I could serve as their secretary, which I don't have the objection, but I wanted to be clear that it was something that my board, that I answer to, that it was something that you wanted me to do.
Right. And Mr. Sabatino mentioned that.
Yes.
And that's what we were hoping, that we as a board have to vote to say that we can allow her. If not, we can say, no, that's up to us as a
We're not
board.
appointing her to the board.
We're not appointing her to the board, so make that clear, Mr. Ryan Davis. Yes. We're not appointing her to your board. We're just giving her, again, we talked about the cost of Kip Weiler. Kip has already charged us a lot of money to do the legal side of what he had to do to get the NCA up and running, and it's now up and running. So we don't need him, because remember, everything's about the township being reimbursed. Right now, I can't remember the amount of money, but we spent quite a bit of thousands. It's quite a bit.
$125,000.
Quite a bit of money.
$161.88.
Thank you, Mark Evans. I appreciate it. So if he continues to be the secretary, we will be paying him. And we don't want to do that. I mean, why waste money? And and how many times a month or a year do you guys meet, Mr. Davis?
Right now, possibly just twice.
Yeah, so.
I mean, we can't tell you what point, but we're
Right,
allowing
it's up to
her
your board
use
to
it.
vote it,
Well, I got clarity from the board that it's okay with
Yeah.
their duties and everything.
Right,
So I understand that now. It was very
I
unclear
understood.
there, so
Yeah.
there were questions. So
Right, I appreciate that. Just like Ms. Hanson mentioned, when she sat in on the board, she wasn't prepared at the time. There was a lot going on. She was learning her new role, her duties here in the township, what she would be able to do, and now she feels comfortable enough to take on that role, so.
All right, and for my discussion, as Mr. Davis indicated, even the president of the NCA was not clear about what we were doing. He made a comment on Facebook that no one spoke to him. As a trustee, I wasn't made aware of this agenda until yesterday, and I didn't know what was going on with this because nothing was communicated. Ms. Hanson did not communicate that with me, nor did anybody else in any kind of packets or information, or even the agenda. Why wouldn't we, to the public, put that there was going to be a motion to approve Ms. Hanson? Let's give not only the trustees who are obligated to run this township, but the public the information. Why is that being withheld?
Mr. Evans.
And I think that I still have my time, please. You already spoke. Why is that being withheld, and why can't there be open transparency about the business of this township so that we can do our jobs and others can also prepare for their comments? Maybe somebody might have had a public comment about it if they knew what it was. But again, the president of the board, no one spoke to him about what was going on today. That's, I believe, improper.
Yes, Mr. Sabatino, thank you.
Mark, let me clarify. It was all discussed at the meeting, and purposefully, there was no vote taken because it was decided at that meeting, and Mark was there, it was decided at that meeting that first, before we considered replacing the secretary that costs a lot of money, that this board would allow her to be considered. And that's what's going on.
That's all it is. That's all it is.
Secondly, all of our board meetings are published in advance, and anyone who wants to attend, including you, can attend a board meeting, I believe. The benefits, as we talk about transparency, is then all of the books and records that are currently down there with that law firm can be moved here. And if anybody wants to look at the books and records, they can make a records request to our secretary. Thank you.
Thank you. You have something to say, Mr. Davis?
And again, just to add to what Mr. Sabatino said, this board really hasn't had much to do because we're in charge of money that has not been in the account. So to let everybody know, I was actually the first acting treasurer, but my stipulation of being the first acting treasurer, that once money came in the account, I didn't want to be treasurer anymore. So we are now to the point where this board is going to start actually having an impact on the community. So yes, there will be changes, there will be considerations. You know, money is obviously an issue, so that was already a thought I think we all had. That's why we considered what to do at the last meeting. But yes, we are going to look at every aspect of things. We're going to make the township actually is represented by Mr. Waller actually represents the township, but he's been the integral attorney that has been assigned to get the NCA up and running. Now that it's actually up and running, to start getting some money here in September. I look forward to actually being effective and actually benefiting the community. And like Mr. Sabatino said, once the meeting is set after September 15th, it will be published and welcome anybody to come and ask questions. We'll be learning right along with you on some things, but it's exciting. It's actually happening. So.
Mr. Davis, is the secretary an appointed position?
No, actually, it was mentioned during the meeting that the secretary does not have to be a member of the board. The secretary is essentially taking the notes of the meeting, and that's the role of the secretary. So Mr. Waller, who was attending these early meetings while we were still developing the board, offered to do it as a courtesy because he's good at taking notes, and we had to have him there to pay him to do the other services as well. So that's the main reason that I was under the understanding he was assigned or actually elected on our group to be the secretary originally. Any other questions?
So,
Thank you for
clarifying that, just so we didn't forget anything. Okay, I'll move over into old business.
We have to take roll call.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Since there's no
Got a
more
little bit out of
discussion, we
hand
need to take
there.
roll call.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Roll
Mr.
call.
Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes, thank you. Okay, we'll move over into old business. I would like to turn the meeting over to Mark Evans regarding the ODOT grant payment distribution.
Why are you turning it over to me when
Because
you took over? Ms. Hanson's been working exclusively on the grant, and
Is that what he asked for to be on the
Mr.
agenda?
Evans, you asked us to have discussion in the meeting.
And did he ask that for to put on the agenda?
It wasn't in the specific email about agenda, but there was a separate email and you asked that it be discussed, that the distribution be discussed. I mean, I'm happy to give sort of an overview.
But again, you didn't indicate that, number one, I would be discussing it, or that's my opportunity. There is no information, nothing of what we're gonna do, but I would just like to know what we're gonna be doing, because when the grant was applied for, there was no developer
Wait, are we in a
agreement with that.
discussion now, Mr. Evans? Are you taking over? I'm just asking.
Yes.
Okay.
But you gave it over to me, but again, it was unclear about the agenda, what we were discussing. Is there gonna be a distribution agreement? Because there wasn't one set up by John Carlisle, and in discussing with Fred Vogel of ODOT, stated that we could just keep the entire amount. Now, my discussion with Jeff Breeze was that they were only expecting $50,000 of the $100,000 to be able to satisfy Ashley and the improved landscaping around there, and that the township would keep the rest. I did see in an email that Ms. Hanson was talking about only the legal fees, and some of the grant agreements do provide for 3-6% to be withheld to cover legal fees. So again, nothing is discussed with me providing that. I'd like to know how we're moving forward with this, and is it being done properly?
Mrs. Hanson, I know you've been working.
So
on
when
this.
I was sort of like thrust into the middle of figuring out about the 629 and, oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right, just pull it over from you.
Is that better? Okay.
Well, for that.
To make the application for the payment of the 629 funds, and related, making an application for payment of the ODOT grant funds, which are separate and apart from the 629 funds. There is no agreement for the developer to participate in the $100,000 ODOT grant. There is a specific agreement about them participating in the 629.
Right.
And in fact, I even asked the developer, to the extent that maybe I was overlooking something, if there was a basis for them to participate. And it's my understanding that there is no agreement for the developer to participate at all in the $100,000 ODOT grant. My position about payment of the legal fees was to first determine, I thought you had a great idea about, well, before we finish out the 629, let's figure out if any of our legal fees can be attributed to the payment of the 629 funds. And so I've been working with Ms. Varian to get all of those legal fees together so that we know what they are. And we would also have to be able to give to the 629 program administrator the invoices for the legal fees and proof of payment. So far, she has 22 and 23, but hasn't gone back yet to 2021.
And that's only for that one 629, correct?
Just as relates to global weight, yes. But in the discussions about the $100,000 grant money, that is the township money that is in the township coffers, it's been paid to the township, that at a minimum, we should understand what has been the township investment in this process. And we don't have an understanding of that right now. That would be the only thing that I would say. I mean, obviously, it's up to this board to determine what, if anything, of that $100,000 should be donated to the developer, because there's no contractual obligation for us to give any of the money to the developer.
Right, there's nothing written.
Right, and that was my contention, that it should be a discussion amongst the board instead of just provided here and it's going, because the way it was written, I thought it was just gonna be shut through whatever
No, the
was
whole
predetermined
purpose was to
outside,
have
so.
the discussion that you wanted to have.
You've talked to, but again, it would be nice to say, hey, Mark, this is the information, this is what's going on, because it doesn't happen. So you've talked to Jeb Breeze?
No, I don't know who that is.
Jeb Breeze with TPA is the developer.
Brad Cobber is who I've had all of my communication with at TPA.
Okay, well, it was Jeb Breeze from Atlanta with TPA, and he's the one that indicated. Now, Ashley was asking for the additional $50,000 to improve the landscape there, the buffering and that, which I would totally be supportive of because it would minimize any impacts to the surrounding residents and people driving through. It will beautify it and that. So even if the whole 100,000 is used for that, that's fine. But I just don't think we should hand over the whole 100,000 or keep the whole 100,000. And that's what this discussion was for.
So are you proposing that we should give them half of the 100,000?
Well, what are they
There's no
doing?
there's no contract. There's nothing written that said that we would. We're still looking.
Correct.
There's no
Correct. Usually when there's a grant, well, this is the one that the two previous attorneys said, don't worry about, don't extend it, don't approve it, don't, it's nothing. And, you know, thankfully I did, and we have it, but my thing is, what are we gonna do with it? Are they still intending to use that to beautify it? Is it, because like I said, Fred Vogel, who was at the state, said we could just keep the full amount.
right.
So would that be preferable? And then we determine to use it for beautification or whatever.
Mr. Johnson, do you have any?
Well, with the changes that are going on down there along Refugee Road and the circle that's there, it's got to be tied into Refugee Road when it's done. There's going to be some need for road work there. I don't know where that money's coming from exactly. I don't know if that's coming off the Refugee Road project or it's going to come from the developer out there.
I believe the tie-in is the refugee project.
They're going to tie it all the way back to where that circle is.
It's only 60 foot, 70 foot.
They're going to roll it back 70 foot.
I believe it was.
All right, they're going to do that. Then, like I said, the beautification at that point, do we want to beautify our site using that money for that? After what they do with refugee and spend their money on that, we can come back and redo how we really want it over there, possibly. Or the roundabout area or something like that. That would be that area. I think we would want the money until we decide it's done with refugee, the tie-in, and all that. And besides, Ashley's not there anymore. So it's not Ashley that would benefit from the money. It would be you on it. Right?
Well, I think the landscape, the residents would benefit too.
Well, I'm saying that if you're gonna, you're giving it to a developer to spend the way they want, assuming you're telling them how you want to spend it, you give it to them, then I think it's better off in the townships so we can spend out what the township wants.
Well, like I said, my main thing was to have a discussion, because it typically isn't, and none of this was shared. So all I saw was legal fees, and I don't think it really matters on this. Legal fees would be minimal on this 100,000.
I think it'd be a great way to work.
It was just a grant application.
It'd be a great way to work with our new developer there and get something positive for the township out of that.
That's good.
I just don't want an automatic payment to the developer for 100,000.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Council, you have anything else to that?
No, I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move over to the 2023 well bids. I would like to make a motion for Palmer Road, Etna Parkway, and Heritage Drive out of the competitive bidding, and to authorize Trustee Johnson to coordinate with Ms. Nita Hanson to the notice of the contractor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Discussion?
I do have a question of, all three roads are combined into one. Last meeting you said you're gonna seek reimbursement from the BIA within there, so shouldn't these be separated so they could show the expense for all? And additionally, I believe with the judge, you have to get it approved before you move forward, so that would be a concern. And then regarding Palmer Road, I know there are sections, I believe, around Coyote Run where there was a turn lane put in, and that's newer pavement. From this description, it looks like that's gonna be ripped out. Is there a need to do that, or should it go to that section and then start after that again?
So this whole project was already approved by the board, and it was approved for us to send it to the engineer for his estimate. We now have his estimate, and so we need to go into the bidding process. Once we know what the cost is, we can't actually engage. We can't engage the bid until we ask for reimbursement. But not all of these roads would be eligible for reimbursement. So, I mean, there's a board meeting on August the 25th, and so I'll make a presentation to the BIA account about reimbursement for those specific roads, and it'll have to be, like a percentage of what this total.
But how do you know what the percentage is? What I'm saying is it should be separated out, because even the bids, it may be different, because they actually go look at the roads, go consider. So if you're gonna ask for any kind of reimbursement or anything, it's gotta be separated. And to get a separate bid, you have to have a separate engineer's estimate, so you know that aligns. So
Well,
I just don't know how you're gonna get that. You can't just say 25%.
Certainly, if you want to start this process over, I can ask the engineer to separate those out. My thought process was that it would be the total, separate out the Palmer Road part of it. Maybe Bubba can probably answer your question about, he had the specific question about the beginning and ending. The beginning and ending was already part of the board discussion when this was approved. So, but Bubba, did you want to address that?
As far as the new section, yeah.
You know where they put the turn lane in for those?
I'm sure it'll get milled down and everything will have a fresh mat.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's gonna be, so what we're doing is we're taking the old road sections, there was a newer road that, would there be cost savings of not doing that?
No.
Because we're paying for this regardless.
Yeah.
So.
It'll all be a fresh mat all the way across.
Right, but what I'm saying is, should it stop at that?
No, it'll be, you'll have one.
I know it will be, but I'm saying, should it be? Because why are we replacing a road that section doesn't need to be replaced?
Well, it won't be milled completely down. It'll just have butt joints or sections in it. And it won't be as bad as the rest. But it'll all have a fresh mat all the way across.
Because I know when they did it, they just stopped at the old, and what I'm saying is, we're ripping out something that's good and gonna redo it at an additional cost. Would there be cost savings of not doing that? Or is it marginal, just let them go through?
Yeah.
Because that's an area with the turn lane, that's quite a bit of area.
They're not gonna take that much of it. I mean, it'll be, minimal
area of it where, you know, it goes into subdivisions and where it gets wide and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I just know that the 20-some foot into Hagee's property was $13,000 just for that little section of adding it. So that's my thing. But again, I don't see how you're going to get a reimbursement if these aren't separated.
I suppose if the board wants to, if there is a motion to separate these out and resubmit it to the engineer, I'll do whatever you tell me to do.
Separate it when we go to bid?
I'm sorry?
Can we separate it when we go to bid? And then have a total cost?
I don't know how I would compare, if we separate it at the bid, I don't know how I would compare that back to the engineer's estimate.
Total, you add the sections up, and it's a total.
Well, I know, but that was what I thought I was gonna do, to present it to you, the BIA, for the BIA reimbursement.
Right,
That
I'm
won't
saying
work.
if you had them bid it separate, like 3 bids and rolled in one bid, and then divide out, because I know when I give bids out for people, I want to bid for this and this add on this, right? So I can get 3 bids, but they're still in one bid.
And that's fine, if we can do that and just separate it out when we do the paperwork, then that works for me.
That's my point, if they're all the same total.
Okay.
Is that legal? Because I know for the other one, we had the 2 separate, there was 2 separate engineered, like, because legally we have to have the engineer's estimates, and they can't exceed that. And that, so
correct.
Have you checked, can you do that? And have you checked, is there anything in the BIA account for it to be reversed? Because I know most of those are still paying back the developers. And I thought the only one that really had an account, a balance in the BIA account was the Jet Z's for Amazon for 2 and a little bit in 1. I didn't see it. Is there a balance in the BIA account for the applicable Jets?
So for your first question about is it legal, I don't know the answer to that because this is the first time this question has been raised to me. So I don't know the answer to that question. I'll be happy to find out. And then in terms of what money is currently available, the BIA, I don't know the answer, but the BIA can approve this and reimburse us as money comes in. Certainly.
So can we table it until we figure it out, or would that put us behind on?
Well, yeah, I would be concerned about the schedule to table it. I think what we need to do is either take action to direct me to have this broken out and obtain new engineer estimate on 2 projects, and then bid out the 2 projects, or divide it into 3 projects for each of the individual roads.
Can I offer a solution? How
And
about,
bid it that way.
Ms. Hanson, let me offer a solution. Why don't we approve this? You verify with the prosecutor that if it turns out that this isn't appropriate, if we're gonna separate them out, then don't move forward. We can have a special meeting or whatever, do it, but if it winds up being legal, just move forward.
That's fine. Good, yeah.
So it should be, if anything, delayed today.
Right.
For checking.
Got it.
Would you like to make motions? Yeah. Is that you're putting that in form of motion?
Or she could just do it, because you guys have, I mean, the security system was supposed to be solved, and it's not, I mean, you can don't take action on it, and then we just meet again to change it.
So we may not,
Okay, so are we tabling this?
No,
we're gonna do the roll call. Okay, I just want to make sure that I understand what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, we'll move over into the park committee. I would like to make an appointment for several park committee individuals that would like to serve.
This is so wrong.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Roger Hubble, Payman McGiddy, Craig Zacher, Paige Hobbs, Barb Langel, Debbie Colaboni to the Etna Township Park Committee that will be serving at the will of the board.
Who was the second one again?
His name is Payman, Peyman. Last name is Magidi, M-A-G-I-D-I.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yeah, again, I think this is wholly inappropriate. This wasn't on the agenda to appoint anybody. There's been no interviews. I've asked for all the applications and they were refused again, so I couldn't even talk to these individuals. I was provided a list of names and said, here you go. Even as a public records request for the actual email submissions, they were denied. So that I could not speak to the individuals, and yet again, here's Miss McKee just picking on her own who's going to be on there without any discussion. We have no paperwork. We have no applications, no anything like that. I don't even know half these people. There was another individual from the Ballman community that was very interested in serving. She had a lot of great ideas, and she came in here passionate talking about it and wanting to be on it, and I don't believe her name's on there.
Did you share that information with us, Mr. Evans?
No.
She applied.
Okay.
But yet again, it says Parks Committee and appointments. Again, why aren't we following a procedure?
These are individuals that apply.
Why would you withhold information where I could have contacted these people and even done it on my own, but I was refused, even for public records, which legally had to turn over, those emails were withheld by Ms. Hanson. That's what I'm talking about here. And Ms. McKee, you just picked out all these yourself.
That's not true. So let's move on to, let's have a discussion about when we interviewed for employees to come to work for the township on the road committee. You, Mr. Evans, called individuals up, told them not to come to work for the township, talked very negative about the township to them. Yes, you did. I know two people that I can name. I won't name it on, put it on record. Yes, you did.
You're lying, Ms. McKee.
Mr. Evans, I'm not a liar like you are. I won't lie about something like that. I can bring them in here, and I will do that, and I'll show who's a liar. I will bring them in here. I will actually get them to do a written statement. Okay. Matter of fact, one of them was a public records request that we asked you, where you recorded yourself sitting here calling them from that podium and said really bad stuff about the township and tell them they don't want to come to work here. And we still have not got that records request fulfilled. Did that ever get fulfilled, that records request?
You mean the one where none of the wage information that you guys were shoving through was provided?
So this is,
May I speak as
yes,
to
ma'am.
the Park Committee?
Yes.
So the committee is designed to be a group of residents that will meet from time to time. Their first meeting, I guess they'll determine when they'll meet. They're just to give ideas to our design engineer about what might happen. They're just volunteer citizens to serve at the will of the board. They're not paid positions. They're not. It's just people who
in the community
want to. And the list of people seems to have sort of it's kind of an eclectic group of people that have some special interests. People that have children or family members with special needs.
Young couples.
Former Franklin County Parks and Recreation guy. It just is a very good eclectic group of people.
Yes.
People from other communities.
How many applications did you get?
All these people apply, correct?
Maybe I could count it up. I would say maybe 12.
So they're all willing to serve.
And I think Mrs. McKee is suggesting appointing 6. Was that 6 names on that you were presenting?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total. And after we had spoke with the EMH&T, they recommended 6 people on the board to keep it so it doesn't get out of control. Yes, sir?
big question here. You had 12 people, 6 people to serve on your committee. Did someone take the time out to talk to them, see if they have somewhat of a background in what they're doing? I mean,
Did you speak to him?
you're saying it's the parks that we're talking about.
Sir.
It's one I'm interested in the birds, the animals, the other one is the trees, the
This is not a-
flowers, how nice is this gonna be? What was the process? to
Yeah,
get
it's
here?
not a solid part, it's not, this is the thing, this is a committee, and they will interchange. It's not like, oh, we're gonna have this committee, they're gonna stay on the board the committee for the next year or two. There's a lot of rotations that we didn't mention. There's some other professionals that have worked in this capacity that will rotate in and out of these committees to meet with individuals.
That was important.
People
Out of the 6 people you're talking about, you're telling me that what, half of them are gonna rotate out and other people will come in? Or that 6 gonna stick there and be in charge of the parks from now to do?
I don't think they're in charge of the park.
They're not in
Yeah, they're not in charge of anything.
But they're in
It's-
charge of making rules or ideas of what's gonna
No,
happen.
that's
in
not
the park,
true.
If I understand
No,
what you're
that's
saying.
not.
They will not be a decision-making body of any type.
No, they're
they
gonna
would
give you
just-
ideas.
Right, just
I've
contribute
served on many
ideas.
boards in this township.
Okay, what's your
Okay.
name, sir? I didn't get
What's
your
my
name.
name?
Yes, sir.
It's Richard Humphreys.
Okay, hi, Mr. Alfred. Good to meet you.
And I'm just curious just how you were gonna operate here. I mean, as well as the next guy, I like to see great parks out here. I'm at that age where I can walk them.
Did you apply?
No, didn't
Okay.
know anything about it. And no, at my age, I just wanna sit back and understand. That's all I'm
Yes.
trying to do, is
For
just
sure.
understand.
Sure.
Okay? And, hope that we do good things with this.
Yeah, I
We
agree.
need to make more developers set aside land to give us parks, including the industrial parks. We should get something free out of it.
So, Ms. McKee, did you speak to all these individuals?
But thank you for the time. I'm
You
grateful.
are sure welcome, and thanks for the questions.
All right.
Thank you.
And I would think if there's 6 members, there was no board discussion to even have a park committee. Ms. McKee just bequeathed it, just put it out there. But if we're gonna have 6 members, again, not decided by the board, decided by Ms. McKee, shouldn't we each have input on 2 of them instead of Ms. McKee just picking all 6?
Okay. Roll call, Mrs. Hanson, please.
Because I would like to make an amendment to the motion to include Sarah Ferguson and Adam Kelly on the board. I believe those are 2 individuals that are qualified, have definite interest, and again, why does Ms. McKee get to just pick all 6?
Which 2 are you admitting?
It's up to you. Why don't I pick 2, you pick 2, you pick 2?
Before we can have discussion, I need to know
Jeff, have you spoken
if
to any
there
of
is
these
a second
individuals?
to Mr.
Remember to call.
You have not, you just know.
I just need to, before we have discussion, I need to find out if there is a second to Mr. Evans' motion to amend.
No.
So roll call, Ms. Ms. Hanson. There's no.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's her way or the highway. No.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. McKee,
Yes.
And Mr. Johnson said he didn't speak to these individuals. He knows of you.
I spoke to all these.
That's not what you just said.
Mr. Evans, even with the comp committee plan, we saw that was a disaster with you. So we're trying to just get business taken care of in the township.
No.
We don't want to fight.
Dictatorship.
We don't want to argue.
No.
You just have to stop. It's just so unprofessional.
Kelly is on the zoning.
Right. So that's, yeah. So. Fiscal officer is not here tonight, but I'm going to move on into her area. I move to resolution 2308-0101 to approve the purchase orders as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, can I ask you to hold up the resolution, the purchase orders that are presented? Because we have none. How can we continue to approve error?
I'm sorry.
There are no purchase orders here.
Ms. Varian sent all the purchase orders.
Why aren't they here to review?
They are here.
You're right there in that.
They sent them yesterday.
They've
Typically,
been here, they
they're
go down the road
here.
like we've always done. We've asked her to have them here today
Jeff doesn't
before.
have them.
You don't have her.
He's had them earlier.
I came in
Stop
early.
stirring up strife
Ms.
in
Varian
here.
provided them.
Please stop it. Stop stirring up
Should they
strife.
not be here?
Stop stirring up strife.
I
No,
would
it's
have
not. It's
gladly
proper
made paper
administration.
copies for you if you had asked for that. Nobody asked for paper copies. Mrs. Varian brought in this folder. She's not able to be here this evening because of a family emergency. And so
Everything we're.
I've asked
should
Mrs.
be-
Varian to bring these to us a day before we would sign off, so we can look through them and take our time. She was doing that for a while. All of a sudden, the last couple months, she stopped doing it.
And
But-
Mr. T removes things from what she presents. That's the
What are
issue.
you talking about, Mr. Evans?
All I know is I come in here around 4 o'clock, around before these meetings, I'm here a couple hours early. Files on here, I look at it, it's that simple. I don't know how much harder it is to look at the file, go through the whole thing.
They should be in.
Yes, they're in that folder right there.
Okay.
Can't even do that.
It's sitting right there for everyone to look at.
Because I haven't seen your signature on any of them in months. Do you want it now? Would you like it?
do you want to take a recess so you can review?
Yeah.
Or
Are these
Would you-
unchanged
would
from
you-
what Julie Varian presented?
do you want to take a recess to review?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, all right, so should we do roll call?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
I do have one question. Can we hold the roll call?
Sure.
The Hagee Farms, $400. I think we should start using other people than just connected people. That's all I have.
That's a personal attack to Mr. Hagee, you guys, and he's a resident for 5 generations.
That bill was approved at the last meeting.
Not for Mr. Hagee. That's a good friend of Mr. Carter. I think we need to look at
It's a
it.
personal attack.
Okay,
Why
I
does it matter?
Mr. Hagee was the preferred provider that has been used by the township for years.
That's all I got to say.
Okay, that's all I have. Roll call. Then Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I move to ratify the payment for the bills as shown on the payment listing. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, I'm again concerned about the increasing bills of the ice miller at $590 per hour. The total so far has been $125,161.88. I know Mr. Sabatino had early on said that's excessive. He's done many other entities like that at a much lower cost. Even our outside counsel that is supposed to deal with economic development has said they could do it at a much lower cost. So I don't understand why we're still using those, because we're not even sure if we're going to get fully reimbursed from the NCA on this, because they don't have to. So I think, that's been an ongoing concern that's been just ignored.
Yeah, Mr. Evans, that's not true. That's why we just asked for Ms. Hanson to become the secretary, because if not, Kip will continue to be in these meetings and we will be paying him by the hour, even just to be the secretary. All the legal legalities have already been taken care of, and they were already set in place. Now, Mr. Correct. Yes. They've already been set in place, so we won't be needing him anymore. We wanted to move on to bring Ms. Hanson into it, so she
No,
could.
we're not talking about him. I've been raising this for over a year.
And again, we couldn't do anything till things were set in place. There
So
was
you
a
could.
declarations that all had to be signed off, and the last declaration that had to be signed off was Ashley Furniture, and we got that.
Roses and Grapes could have taken it over.
We just need to approve payment of bills.
Okay.
Just one second, please.
Okay.
Payment of bills, let's go ahead and roll call on that, please.
That was
Roll
the
call.
question.
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes, and I want to hear from Mr.
I would just like to add that the board, the NCA board, is working with Mr. Kip Waller from Ice Miller That is the township's representation. I think if the township would like to save money going forward, the township should explore the representation, and that's a decision you guys can make. I'm not saying that's what we should do. I think that's out of my control, so we're using Mr. Waller until such directed otherwise. But I do agree that I think the most, if not all of the legalities are done, but I'm not going to speak to everything because I don't know everything. But I'm going to say that I think that's a decision that the board should take up and consider saving, possibly saving money for the NCA and for the community later.
Mr. Sabatino is no longer here, but he and I had a conversation last year regarding moving on to a different law firm that could represent us at a lower rate. So we did seek advice on that last year, but we could not make the move until we finalized the things with the NCA, where they represented getting all the declarations signed, and we finally got it signed. It was quite a long process to get those declarations signed. Ashley Furniture just did not cooperate in the beginning, so we finally got it done. So here we are now. So we may explore that if the board wants to.
We could have made that change back then.
No, we could not, Mr. Evans. That's not true. All righty, so we can now go ahead and announce for trustees' announcements. Let's move over to that. Did you have an announcement, Mr. Evans?
Yes, just checked again like I did before every meeting. Checked for the security system that was installed once, removed, and then voted to be installed again. It's still not there, not protecting our property or the residents here. It was voted by the board to be installed. Why isn't it? And I can't get any answers from anyone. Regarding West Licking Development Group, we got another report that the Hinkle reports, the annual reports are overdue again. Just things aren't being properly done in this township, and it hasn't for a long time, and it's continuing. And that's all I ask for. Proper administration, doing the right thing, proper due diligence. And then regarding the Lakeland Hills road flooding again, I brought that to the attention of the board last year, asked for engineering assistance. We got it. It was kind of ignored for about a year from the engineer, no response whatsoever. Working with one of the residents that lives there, and he requests that I be present. And again, I'm being excluded, and why? I've been the only one pushing to have it properly addressed, just like the pond and all the other stuff. You can't just drive by and ignore it. And it's been driven by every day by a trustee and ignored, and they should not be.
What trustee, Mr. Evans?
Mr. Johnson, he lives there.
I don't drive by it.
No? You're right around the corner?
I don't drive by it.
But you,
It's in his
Okay.
backyard.
I mean, tell the truth, Mark.
okay,
I mean, it's there.
all right.
I know exactly what's going on. I roll the tile on. I made the thing. There's lots of other issues which I don't discuss about that whole thing.
And it hasn't been done, nothing's been done with over a year.
You don't know anything about it.
And the resident, I've been out there numerous times with the resident, the HOA president, everybody, and it just needs to be addressed. And again, just like the pond being excluded, and it's not for the benefit of the township, it's just for control, and that's not right. And regarding the Scanel, the TIRC, yes, it was extended, but they have numerous violations. They haven't acted in good faith. After I was elected, that week I met with the developer trying to get it worked out, pushing them, and that was stopped. We're no further ahead, and that abatement should not be approved at all. But the recommendation is by John Carlisle to approve it when they didn't meet their June 30th deadline. We're not protecting the residents. We're not doing what's right here. We can't just keep giving to these developers that aren't willing to take care of their issues.
I wanted to take care when you was president.
Some people blocked it.
Mr. Evans? Mr. Johnson?
Now, the other comment I had was part of Mr. Anderson's accusations. he asked that he be able, he has any present at the meeting. I just said, I'll be there. That's all I said. We didn't exclude you. I just said, I will be at the meeting. It's on the pond that I live on. It's part of it. I've been in the holes. I've done many of those things. I've been around these dams. I've fixed it, moved rock. I mean, so I've dug those trenches and we snaked out all those lines in there before. Been there 35 years. And for some reason you think you've got the solution to the problem.
According to the resident.
No, I'm talking. I don't think so. I look at that, I can look at it every day across there. I know what it looks like. So there's other issues there. We think we resolved one of the problems that was caused unbeknownst to one of the landowners there. So, and I'm working with him. In fact, we were digging the hole out Sunday or Saturday, whatever day it was. We're out there digging around the hole. So we fixed it, part of it probably that will now drain correctly. So I just want you guys to know that, that what he's spewing is not always the truth.
That's from the resident.
Everything's a he pretends as if this board doesn't care about residents. We are all residents in here. We care. I ran because I care. And he's always the victim. If you just listen, he's always the victim. And he's going to save everybody because we're not doing our jobs up here. But I just want you guys to know, we care. I'm in this town hall 3 or 4 times a week because I care. And we take phone calls. We ask people to call, stop by. I drive the roads. I pay attention. I reach out. I get in touch with our administrator. I talk to Laura. I talk to John. I talk to Bubba. We're every day, we're busy. We're out here doing the things of the township. Whether this trustee wants to make you think we're not, it's not true. We are doing the business of the township. And when it comes to the agenda, we are here to do action items. We don't want to sit up here and argue and back and forth because that's what one trustee wants, to make us look like we don't know what we're doing. We do. We're professionals. She worked in a professional position for many years. I did too. Mr. Johnson still does. Professionals. And you worked in a company for 30-something years. You had to work with others. You had to get along with others and listen and be a team. And that's what we do here, whether he wants to make you guys believe that or not.
May I just make two?
Thank you.
May I just make 2 quick comments?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
As to the West Looking CIC, I agree. I know, obviously, I acknowledge that the auditor has given the delay. The board has just been reconstituted and is scheduled to meet. So part of what that new board will do is to take care of what needs to be done in order to close out that. And then as to Lakeland Hills, when you asked me to get involved, I reached out to the engineer. The county engineer has suggested a site visit, which we're trying to coordinate. It looks like it'll be that first week of September. So there is action being taken, and I don't know how to make it happen any faster than it's happening.
Well, that request was a year old in June of 2022.
I can't go back to the past, Mr. Evans, and of course I wasn't here in June of 2022. I can only move forward.
That's right.
And so
That's right.
when it was brought to my attention, I contacted the county engineer. He suggested the site visit, and I'm moving forward. I can't address the
My
past.
point is
I can
there's
only
trustees
move forward.
that refuse to take action.
And what's interesting about this conversation, Ms. Hanson, is he never shared that with you guys just now. See, he wants to pretend like it's just in a black hole. She's working with the county to try to work out the problem.
Because I continue to push it.
This county, okay.
That's right.
Okay, well, thank you. I would like to make a move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion, thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
I'm 7:27.
Okay, thank you.